St. Augustine said, "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page." Don't get me wrong, I love Atlanta, but the world is a mighty big place.
Hello, veggie enthusiasts. Today was an amazing day because Russ and I got to go see El Alamein. El Alamein is a battlefield, and El Alamein, the battle, is a huge turning point in World War II. So El Alamein is located in Alexandria, and Alexandria is about 3 hours or so ride from Cairo. So we got up super early in the morning and headed over there. We took a tour. We had perhaps the best tour guide I've had up until this point. And the driver was also good, although apparently while I was asleep on the 3-hour ride, he hit 150 kilometers per hour. I didn't hear this. I was not aware of this because I was asleep, but Russ caught it. But it seems like he did it in a safe area where the road to get to Alexandria is called Desert Road, and on Desert Road there's hardly anybody out there. Good luck if your car breaks down, and there's just nothing but desert. Like, it's very accurately named. I could only look at so much desert, so eventually I fell asleep. But anyway, when I woke up, we were in Alexandria. I went to sleep on the way home. When I woke up, we were back in Cairo. So that worked out well for me. The most awesome part of Alexandria, aside from being able to see El Alamein, was being able to view the beach. It's a beautiful beach. The Mediterranean is a gorgeous ocean. It's several different shades of blue. Super cool in Alexandria because you have the ocean breeze coming in. I didn't get a chance to see the city of Alexandria because in order to get there from Cairo, you kind of skip over the city and go straight to El Alamein. It knocks a good hour or so off the trip. So I would like to see Alexandria perhaps on another trip. Also, when you get to Alexandria, something that you notice immediately is how clean the air is compared to Cairo. Cairo's air is a cesspool. Russ told me that breathing the air in Cairo is the equivalent of smoking a pack of cigarettes every day. It looks hazy because it's always dusty, and you just don't, the emissions from the cars, they don't have the same thing here that we have in the States. So you can just drive around a car that's just spewing crap out of it, and there's no one that's going to stop you from doing that. So Alexandria was truly a breath of fresh air. So just a little bit of history of why we went to El Alamein, why that was so important to me to see. Again, key battle in World War II. If you remember World War II, you have to think you have the Axis and the Allied powers. The Axis powers consist of Germany, which is run by Adolf Hitler, and Nazism, and then it's the middle of the Holocaust, and you also have Japan, an Axis power, and Italy is an Axis power. And then over on the Allied side, you have Britain and France, but France fell very quickly to Germany during World War II. So in France, you've got some people who are cooperating with the Germans, and then some people who are leading a resistance against the Germans, but France technically is out at this point because it's been occupied by Germany, or is working with Germany in some way. When Britain gets involved, it brings in the entire world. Okay, that's what really makes it a world war. So when Britain gets involved, you have soldiers that are coming from not only Britain, but Canada, South America, Central America, the Caribbean, parts of Africa, mainly South Africa, but also Egypt. You have people from the Middle East in what at the time was called Mesopotamia, which is modern-day Iraq. You have Indians and Asians coming to fight on behalf of Britain. You also have Australia and New Zealand fighting on behalf of Britain. So that's when Britain gets involved, it's a huge thing. And what's also uniquely happened in 1942, which is when the Battle of El Alamein takes place, the United States has just entered the war on the side of the Allies because Japan on December 7th, 1941, attacked Pearl Harbor as well as a number of other places in the Pacific. So the United States is now coming in on the same side as the Brits and the Allies, and that's going to make a huge difference. So to set this up, you have El Alamein is in Egypt. And North Africa, though, the rest of it has pretty much been controlled by Italy under the leadership of Mussolini. Mussolini decided he wanted to recreate the Roman Empire, so that included taking over the Mediterranean area. Now, Italy is allied with Germany. So in North Africa, you have not only Italian troops, but you also have German troops. And the leader of the German troops is a guy by the name of Erwin Rommel. Big dude as far as military tactician, one of the most brilliant minds of the war. His nickname is the Desert Fox. Under the leadership of Erwin Rommel, you have the Italians and the Germans just taking over North Africa, and they've gotten to Egypt. Things have not been looking good for Britain because at this point Britain's kind of standing alone. The United States is just entering the war. We're still getting troops over to Europe, and it's not good. So the guy that's in charge of the British troops, he gets fired because he was not doing a very good job. And then the second guy who was supposed to be in charge, he died in a flight accident on his way to Egypt. So that didn't work out. So the third guy is a guy by the name of Bernard Montgomery. You might have heard him like Bernie Mont. Anyway, he is going to go up against Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox, at El Alamein, and he defeats him. And there's not just one Battle of El Alamein, there are several of them, but anyway, it's a British victory, and then after that, Bernie starts just chasing the Germans and the Italians back across North Africa, taking territory for the Brits, one battle after the other. He's just winning them. It's amazing. And then just in the nick of time, the Americans land on the North African coast under Operation Torch. And so together, squeezing them from both sides, the Germans and Italians who can escape will escape to Italy, but those who can't are going to be captured. So that's the end of the North African campaign. It's the really a turning point in the war in the sense that North Africa is now under the control of the Allies, where it had previously been under the control of the Axis powers. So anyway, huge battle. Wanted to see that, and got a chance to see the War Museum. Well, first when you come in, you can see all of their their trucks and the planes that the British left behind. These things were uncovered and they're in really good condition. Some of them, if you just start them up, they'll actually kick on for you. Inside the War Museum, you can see mannequins that are dressed as soldiers, so you can get a chance to see what they look like a little bit, or at least what they were wearing. You can see the weapons they used, like the different roles that people played, like what the doctor would be using. And you didn't want to get hurt in war back then. You don't want to get hurt in war at all, but it was bad back then. But anyway, you could see what the doctors were using. You could see what nurses had. You could see like kind of what an everyday life of a soldier was like, the type of cigarettes that they smoked. Just really, it's more than you would ever want to know about how that battle went down and what life was like at that point in time in history at that battle. They have in the War Museum several different rooms. There's a British room, and obviously Bernard Montgomery is featured in there. There's a German room where the Desert Fox, Erwin Rommel, will be represented. And then you also have an Egyptian room where you get history of Egypt, as well as a little bit of an idea of how what Egyptian life was like at the time, because a lot of people just forget that it wasn't just the British. The Egyptians were included with the British at the time. And you also have an Italian room. So you have many different facets of the war, all depicted in this museum. When you go into the center part of the museum, you get to see a monument which is representative of the war. And you have to look at it because it's very symbolic. On the side, you'll see 6 steps in white, and those are representative of the 6 years of the war. El Alamein takes place in 1942, but World War II actually starts in 1939, and it ends in 1945, so that's 6 years. The steps going up the middle are representative, I was told, of 6 countries that were involved in the war. Then you'll see some things that were laid down by soldiers, like a hat and a gun. These are representative of the fact that after the war was over, people were tired of war, so they were putting down their arms and they were looking for peace. And then on top of that, you'll see a Roman, like of a little boy singing, and this is making music, and this is representative of peace, that the people wanted peace who were involved in the war. And then at the top you see doves, which represent peace being spread throughout the world. So very symbolic. We leave the War Museum and we go to the different cemeteries. There is a British cemetery, an Italian cemetery, and a German cemetery. The British cemetery, you have all of the bodies laid out like in a graveyard fashion. So I guess that's what we would be most accustomed to seeing in the United States. It's just, it's a very heavy, somber feeling in all of these places. When you go and view the Italian cemetery or monument, it's built as a mausoleum, so the bodies are kind of stacked on top of each other. And then when you go and visit the German one, the German it looks very German. It's very solemn. It is very compact in the sense that the Germans had the most difficult time collecting their dead, and they are placed one on top of the other in the sense that they are not all given, like all of their names are on a plaque of the people that they could identify, the bodies that they could identify, but they're not all given an individual block in a mausoleum or an individual grave, because it just took them so long and it was so difficult for them to collect their dead, because obviously they were the enemy. So then we took the long trip back, and of course I fell asleep on Desert Road, but I feel really refreshed. So anyway, that was today. Thank you so much for watching, guys. That's all I have. This is where I leave you. And remember that animals are not ingredients. Take care.
Don't forget to leave your comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then give it a like. Subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to stalk me on Instagram at ATLVegOut.